So you've hired this absolute all-star team, and yet they're still underperforming. You've got solid A players, people with incredible experience, you love them so much, but when it really comes down to it, they're not solving their own problems or making their own decisions, and they're coming back to you, which forces you to step in and fix it. What's going on here? And how do we up-level our team so that they perform in the way that we know they are truly capable of? So there is a very simple 3-step process that we need to follow in order to level up our team. And the steps are: set the bar, raise the bar, transfer ownership of the bar. Okay, I'm gonna break these down one by one. So step number 1 is set the bar. What does this mean? It means that right now, if your team is not owning their results, chances are we haven't clearly and measurably defined what their results actually are. I see this all the time, where my clients will come to me and they're like, Jhana, I tell my team all the time, try things, come up with ideas, solve your own problems, take ownership. And they never do. They keep coming back to me for everything. Okay, if that's you, here's what's probably happening. You're going, hey guys, take ownership. And your team is going, cool, take ownership for what exactly? It is not enough for us as leaders to be like, hey, take ownership. Our job is to clearly define ownership over what role, ownership over what set of responsibilities, ownership over what tasks, what decisions, and most importantly, what outcomes. Our job is to create a clear, measurable definition of success in the role. This is what an A player in this role looks like. These are the outcomes they are able to achieve. These are the responsibilities they take ownership for. These are the decisions that they own. Your team wants to take ownership. I promise you, if they're A players, they want so badly to take ownership. But if we haven't told them specifically, these are the responsibilities to take ownership over, and instead we're just like, guys, take more ownership, then we're getting frustrated because they're not performing, and they're getting frustrated because they're like, take ownership for what? I'll show up, I'll do my best, I'll do a good job, but you haven't told me exactly what I need to own and how are we going to measure it? How do I know that I'm doing a good job? So I always say, no all-star athlete can run a race if we don't tell them where the finish line is. When we define success and we set measurable outcomes, what we're doing is that we are drawing a finish line. And now we can transfer ownership to our team that says, hey, here's the finish line. Now you go figure out how you're gonna run this race. And to the right A player, they're like, cool boss, thank you, that's all I needed. Get out of my way, please, because I'm running. So when I say set the bar, we have to clarify every role within the business, and we have to measurably define what our expectations and what the measurable outcomes are that we are going to hold our team accountable to. So that's step number 1, is set the bar, just define it. Cool, so maybe you've done that. You're like, Jhana, I have roles and responsibilities, or I have job scorecards, everybody knows what they should be working on, and yet they're still underperforming. Like, I've hired A players, but they're showing up like B and C players. What's going on here? Help me with this. Okay, so this is where we get to step 2, which is now that we have set the bar, the next step is that we need to raise the bar. There's this absolutely brilliant quote that totally changed my leadership that goes, we are not the highest version of ourselves that we can imagine. We are the lowest version of ourselves that we can accept. What does this mean? It means that if I, for example, wanted a 6-pack, I don't get a 6-pack by putting a picture of a 6-pack on my vision board, right? It's not aspirational. It's not the highest version of me that I can imagine. And if I just like imagine hard enough, I will manifest a 6-pack, right? That's not how it works. And why? Because we are not the highest version of ourselves that we can imagine. We are the lowest version of ourselves that we can accept. If I want a 6-pack, I will get that 6-pack by setting a minimum standard with myself that I will go to the gym 3 times a week, do my core workout, and eat healthy. That's my minimum. I literally do not accept anything less than this. Then what happens? I go 3 times a week, I eat healthy, and there's my 6-pack. So human beings, all of us, A players, B players, you, me, all of us, we do not rise to meet the level of the aspirations that we set. We fall to meet the level of the minimum acceptable standard. Right now, you might have job scorecards, and those job scorecards represent the highest version of your team. what you aspirationally know that they are capable of, what you wish and hope that they will show up and they will perform at. And I know this because this was my leadership gap. This was the big thing that I missed for so long when it came to leveling up my team performance, is that I set goals based off of what I knew my team was capable of. But when it came to what my minimum acceptable standard was, I lowered the bar. I tolerated, I accepted my team not hitting their KPIs. My team not showing up and solving their own problems. My team not making their own decisions. My team giving me their good enough B+ level of performance. I tolerated it. I accepted it. And therefore, because human beings fall to the level of our standards, my team fell to the level of standard, not that I wrote down in their job scorecard, but that I accepted and tolerated in my leadership. And when I figured this out, everything unlocked. So step number 2 is we raise the bar. Your job scorecards are not an aspirational definition of success. Your job scorecards are the minimum acceptable standard. It is the minimum level of performance that you are willing to accept and tolerate from anyone on your team in that role. And if you want A players, then you set the minimum at excellence. So I literally do this on day 1. When that new team member comes in, I have a culture deck, I share that quote with them, and then I say something like this. So to be clear, right here from day 1, my minimum acceptable standard for you in this role is excellence. I expect nothing less than your absolute best, because you and I both know that you are capable of it. And I would never do you the disservice of lowering my expectations for you, of allowing you to perform at less than what you are fully capable of, because we both know that you are capable of being an A player in this role. Here's the job scorecard. Here is how we are defining it. Do you have any questions for me around the outcomes and the responsibilities that we have laid out in your role? Okay, so I will do that on day 1. What am I doing? I have set the bar, that's the job scorecard, and then I have raised the bar. I have let them know that that bar is excellence, is A player, and nothing less than that will be acceptable or tolerated. And if that sounds a little intense, here's the real secret. A players love it. A players want to be in an environment where they are challenged, where they are motivated, where they are expected to perform at their best and expected to always get better. And they want to be in an environment where everyone around them has set that bar at excellence too. So don't think of this as being a hard ass or pushing your team. If you have truly hired A players, this is actually the greatest act of service that you can give them, because you are creating a high performance environment where they get challenged to rise. And that is all an A player truly wants. So we have set the bar. We have raised the bar. And before we get to step 3, and step 3 is actually the most important step of all of them, so don't skip it. But before we get there, what we need to understand is why. Why should we do this? Why is it so powerful for us to take all of the time and energy to figure this thing out? Because well-managed teams, on average, are literally 2.1x more productive than your average team. What this means is that just by following this framework, just by setting the bar, just by raising the bar, we will literally double the amount of productivity, we will double the amount of revenue that our team is able to produce, and we will do that for the same cost. You don't have to pay your team anything else. You're already paying them to do their job. Just by setting and raising the bar, we can double the ROI for the amount of labor that we invest. And the gap between those two things is profit. A high-performing team is more profitable. You will get more work done for the same cost. And so it is enormously ROI positive for us to figure out how to solve this problem. This problem, team ownership, is what I call hidden profit. This is profit hiding in plain sight inside of your business right now. And it turns out that there are actually 6 hidden profit centers just like this one inside of your business. If you want help finding hidden profit inside of your business, I've gone ahead and created a tool. I call it the Hidden Profit Finder. And it is going to go with you through your company. It takes 10 minutes or less and diagnose where exactly profit is leaking out of your company right this second, so that you can get more profit for less cost. So if you want that, the link is in the description. Go ahead and grab that tool, and that's going to help you dig into your business even deeper. So cheers, that's yours, a gift from me to you. And now that we understand why team performance is actually just code word for profit, let's get into the third and final step of this process. So we have set the bar, we have raised the bar. The third step is that we need to transfer ownership of the bar. What does that mean? Quite literally imagine for a moment me taking a bar and giving it to you. This is yours now. So in that day one conversation, I have now set the bar. I've given them the job scorecard. I have raised the bar. I've set expectations that this job scorecard represents the minimum acceptable standard of work in the role. And then the third step is I literally and explicitly transfer ownership. This bar, this job scorecard, these results, these are yours now. No one else in this business is responsible for these numbers. You are the only person who is able to achieve this set of results within this company. You own these results, which means you own every task required to achieve these metrics. You own every decision that needs to be made in order to achieve these metrics. You own every problem, every challenge that you run into, every knowledge or skill gap that you need to close. You own whatever it's gonna take to achieve these outcomes. And again, I do that on day one. So now every single person walking into my company is abundantly clear that if there's a problem, that's my problem. If there's a decision to be made, that's my decision. If there's a task to be executed, if there's a process to be updated, anything that is required within my area of ownership and responsibility in this business is mine to own. I know I'm supported. I can ask for help when I need it. I can get training when I need it, but it is fundamentally mine to figure out. And then they take that ownership and they carry it forward. From the beginning, they own their own decisions. They solve their own problems. They ask for help when they need it, but they aren't relying on you to fix it for them. And it makes all the difference. So now you're probably thinking, Jhana, got it. We'll do differently next time I onboard someone. What do I do if I already have a team and I haven't gone through these steps with them? The very good news I have for you is that it is literally never too late. And the steps are exactly the same. So if we don't yet have job scorecards, we set the bar. We build a definition of success for every single role. Once we have job scorecards, we raise the bar. We help our team understand that, hey, these job scorecards and these outcomes represent my minimum acceptable standard for what will be tolerated and accepted within this role. And I'm going to now work with you to level up and grow your performance to meet these minimum acceptable standards. And then number 3, we transfer ownership over that growth. So do you understand that these are now the minimum expectations? And right now you're down here. So what are you going to do to close this gap? And what do you need from me as your supporter and as your coach? What do you need from me to support you in that, right? You own it. But I'm not just tossing you into the deep end. I'm not just throwing you to the wolves. You own the growth that you will need to go through in order to close this gap. Now you tell me, what do you need in order to be set up for success to do so? And that is going to unlock the motivation, the buy-in, the engagement, the proactivity, everything that you know your team is capable of, but hasn't been bringing to the table. Follow this 3-step framework, and I promise you, you are going to see a dramatic transformation of what your team brings to the table every single day. So now that we've got the right team mindset in place, how do we build systems that unlock them and allow them to run at their highest performance? I went ahead, I built an entire video about business systems and the systems that your team needs to perform at their highest. You can grab this, it's right there, and that is the final step that you and your operator are responsible for, getting these systems in place so that you can ROI on the highest level of performance from your team. Check that out. I will see you over there, and best of luck.